Regular programming will not be seen at this time, so we may bring you the Governor's Forum live.
New England, 6 states with incredible diversity and vast resources. It is also a region mired in economic turmoil, from banking to real estate to state funds. Tonight, live from Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government, the Governor's Forum. From Maine, Governor John McKernan Jr., Governor William Weld of Massachusetts, Governor Bruce Sunland of Rhode Island, Connecticut's Lieutenant Governor Eunice Groark, and from Vermont, Governor Richard Snelling. Now, Marvin Kalb of Harvard University's Joan Shorenstein Barone Center.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, this is the Governor's Forum, and this is the second hour of this highly unusual broadcast that is being carried by 9 television stations throughout New England. Our guests tonight are 4 governors and 1 lieutenant governor. Only New Hampshire has chosen not to participate. In our first hour, we review the state of the New England economy. This is exam time here at the Kennedy School, and if I were to give an exam and a test now on the state of the economy, I suppose it would be sort of C-. And the governor seemed to indicate in the first hour that maybe within a year they could bring it up to B+. But we'll see. We've heard from the governors on a number of possible solutions. And now it's your turn to ask questions for the rest of this hour. For those of you who are here, there are microphones on either side. And for those of you who are at home, the 800 number is 1-800-582-2573. Let me repeat that, 1-800-582-2573. I think we'll start with the first question right here, please.
Can one event like the purchase of the Bank of New England by Fleet, I guess, help out the entire region, not just Massachusetts? Could this provide the impetus for a turnaround in the economy?
Governor Well, when we start with you.
Well, you know, I think what we need is some events, more than one, which will constitute pegs that people can hang their hat on in terms of consumer confidence, so that confidence can build on itself on the way back up, just the way the malaise fed on itself on the way down as confidence was eroding. I think the resolution of the Bank of New England problems and the takeover by Terry Murray and Fleet North Star is a significant positive development. Terry Murray has indicated he wants to be aggressive about lending in his home community, and he considers New England his home community. If that is just a step on the path to getting us out of the credit crunch, that could be one of the pegs I'm talking about.
Does everybody agree, by the way, that it is a good thing?
Let me make a comment on that, because we were chatting before the program. The issue of Bank of New England and Fleet has some benefits in many parts of New England, I think. I think it may have a little bit of a problem in the state of Maine. I'm going to be talking with some of the Fleet people about the impact on the layoffs that could take place because of the Maine National Bank being a part of that whole system. I hope that we're going to be able to work it out in a way that's going to be in the best interest of Maine as well as the whole Bank of New England infrastructure.
Good. Would you have a question you'd like to ask?
Yes, I'd like to address my question to Governor Snelling. Mayor Peter Clavelle of Burlington, Vermont is the first elected public official to oppose electricity imports from Hydro-Quebec's James Bay hydroelectric projects because of his concerns about the enormous environmental impacts and the destruction of the Cree and Inuit cultures. 4 Vermont towns have voted against Hydro-Quebec at town meetings this spring. Instead of sending New England's dollars across the border...
I'd appreciate a question, ma'am, please.
It's coming.
Okay.
We need to invest them here, I believe, in energy alternatives, efficiency, and the jobs that will be created from office and residential retrofitting. Your state is currently selling surplus power back to Hydro-Quebec. Will you become the first New England governor to support energy efficiency? And Mayor Clavelle, you have until April 30th, 1991 to cancel Vermont's contract with Hydro-Quebec.
Do that, and Vermont, of course, has been a pioneer in energy conservation, and you just can't link the two. The 345 megawatt contract that we have with Hydro-Quebec goes for a period of 30 years, and it does not, as a matter of fact, require additions to the existing James Bay facilities. It does not require any additional flooding, and it is an opportunity for Vermont to nail down the amount of power that's going to need into the future for 30 years, assuming that we are very, very determined to be conservative in our use of power, and at a price which will enable us to stay competitive not only with the rest of New England, but with the rest of the United States. So with all due respect to Mayor Clavel, Vermont is not going to abandon its very excellent contract with Hydro-Quebec.
Okay, our next question, right here, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Like Governor Sondland, I disagree with Governor Weld's emphasis on privatization of services as a solution to Massachusetts' budgetary problems. One of the greatest inefficiencies I see across New England is the excessive duplication of services across cities and towns. And my question to the governors of New England are, to what extent are you looking at the regionalization of services as a solution, of existing services across cities and towns as a solution to these problems? For example, expanding the importance of county government.
Well, let me answer for Rhode Island, because it's right on the griddle right now. We've cut education. The local cities and towns are complaining bitterly that they're going to have to increase their property taxes. I say no. You're going to have to reduce your local expenses, and then you won't have to increase property taxes. And one of the ways, we've got 37 school districts in the smallest state of the Union. In most states, we'd have 2 school districts. We don't need 37. And each one of those school districts is worth about $1 million. If we can regionalize and maybe come up with 5, one in the north, one in the center, one in the East Bay, West Bay, Aquidneck Island, we could save $32 million. So I think regionalization is something we ought to look at. But it's got to come from the local cities and towns. Big Brother in the State House isn't going to tell them what to do. If they want to save money, the way is there to do it. If they don't, then they'll have to consider whether they want to increase local property taxes.
Anyone else like to contribute to that?
Let me say one area where I think we may have to move more towards a solution over a bigger geographic area, either regional or statewide or multi-state, is the environmental area, because the economies of scale are so huge that a municipality cannot, for example, dispose of all of its hazardous waste products, recycled products. The economies of scale just won't support that. So I think we may have to see, as Bruce, you and I have discussed, multi-state cooperation, and certainly within states, more regional as opposed to municipal approaches in that one area. That's an exception to my desire to decentralize and push decision-making and governmental approaches down to the municipalities.
Let me just make
I think there's another area.
Governor Snelling, go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, I think higher education is another opportunity for us to work together on a regional basis. We can't all have special studies available in all of the areas where we're going to want to develop expertise. We're already cooperating, but I do think it's a place where a regional approach would be efficient and actually enhance also our regional capacity to compete.
We have a question coming in on the phone now. If we just pause, I think we can hear it. Do you have a question?
Yes. I would like to ask Governor Sondland, this is Judy from Warwick, Rhode Island, by not passing the residency bill, doesn't that take money out of the individual cities? You let the firemen, the policemen, the teachers, they work in Providence, they get paid by the city, and then they go off to Cranston, Narragansett, and Warwick and spend all their money in those cities and towns. Wouldn't it help to have the residency bill?
Well, they had a residency bill in Providence, as you know, and there was a great deal of opposition to it, and it was put on the ballot, and my recollection is that it was defeated.
And I have one other question. I heard that the banks that are closed, that Rhode Island Central Credit Union, the people are still working there, and in fact were given a raise. Is this true?
The people are still working there, and they need some. But we're moving to put Rhode Island Central into receivership, into DEPCO, and that management will be changed, as you know.
Thank you very
Governor.
much.
Question right here from the floor.
Also for Governor Sondland. I understand that Rhode Island is the first state to have begun and executed a furlough program for state workers. And I wanted to know, first, how did you get this going? In particular, what did you do about the unions? And second, what problems did it create, and would you recommend it for other states?
We had an original plan of shutting down state government for 10 days. Union leadership supported that. Union membership voted it down. We shut the state down for 3 days. Then the union membership apparently changed its mind. There was a second vote, and they approved it overwhelmingly. And now we have a furlough program. They're going to go without pay for 7 days remaining in this fiscal year and 19 days next year. That money will be accumulated, and they'll be able to pick it up in cash in the years thereafter, or as additional vacation days, or they can lump it and save it as an annuity. The state employee has its choice. It seems to be working. The initial reaction was adverse. The second reaction was favorable. It's the first time that it ever happened in the United States that a state shut down, and I think it's a technique of reducing expenses in severe times like we now have.
We have another question coming in by phone. Go ahead, please.
Hello, this is Vaughn Moody in Burlington, Vermont.
Right.
And the question is for all the governors. Have you guys looked into find out why they have killed the bill in Congress for large corporations to sending products that are made in the United States overseas and getting a tax break on the products?
Governor Snelling, would you like to...
I can't understand the question.
Okay, I'll repeat it for you again, Governor.
Thank you.
Okay, the question is, there was a bill in Congress that got killed. The bill was to stop large corporations from sending their products overseas so they could get a tax break for the products.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what kind of a tax break you get
It's a tax
when you export products. We want people to export products. That's important for our economy.
Yeah,
what
but
tax break is there?
What they're doing, Governor, is they're taking the products out of the state of Vermont and bringing them and sending them overseas so they have a tax break. And a lot of the people in the state of Vermont are losing jobs, and your office has been called about it.
Well, I've been a manufacturer all my life, and I've never heard of how you can make money by exporting products overseas unless you're selling them to people overseas who need them and employing people in Vermont or New England to make the products.
Governor Snelling, we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back right after these messages.
The Governor's Forum is brought to you in part by True Value Hardware Stores. You can do it with True Value. And by New England Jeep and Eagle Dealers, where you get the advantage of quality and value.
Rediscover America with Jeep. The 50th anniversary Jeep sale with discounts and cash back on Jeep Cherokee. Big savings on Jeep Wrangler. Factory-to-dealer incentives can save you even more. The 50th anniversary Jeep sale. Don't miss it.
There's only one Jeep. See your New England Jeep and Eagle dealer now.
You can do it with True Value.
A beautiful yard starts inside your mailbox with True Value Spring into Savings Catalog, where you can save on our best Lawn Chief 20-inch mower with an easy starting 3.5 horsepower engine, and this 15-inch Poland Weed Eater trimmer with automatic line advance. Then get a Poland Weed Eater electric blower with 110 mile-per-hour air velocity at participating True Value hardware stores and home centers.
A lot of people can't wait until they retire. But I always liked my work. It worried me that when I turned 65, I'd have to leave. Rules are rules, and that was company policy. Then AARP helped get mandatory retirement eliminated. Now I can retire when I want to retire.
Bye, dear.
Not when someone else wants me to.
AARP, making a difference.
We're in the money. We're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along. We're in the money. The skies are sunny. Hold that impression. You are true. You got us wrong. We never see a headline, not a red line today. And when we see the landlord, we can look that guy right in the eye. We're in the money. Come on, my honey. Let's spend it like it's and you're rolling along.
Welcome back to the Governor's Forum, which is brought to you live from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. We're in the second hour of this forum event, and for those of you who would like to call in, and any of you may, the number is 1-800-582-2573. I'll repeat that, 582-2573. Now we'll continue the questioning right here from the floor, please.
Thank you. I have a question for all the governors, but in particular for Governor Sondland. Governor Weld has proposed privatization as one way of increasing the efficiency of state government. You've said that you disagree with this. Could you name 3 ways that from the State House you could increase the efficiency of your state's government?
Yes. First thing I'd do would be to remove the private company that cleans the State House. It's filthy. And I think if it was replaced with state workers who had some pride in that building, instead of just receiving a check at the end of the month, the building would be cleaner. Secondly, I can give you a negative answer. A lot of states today are going to the privatization of prisons. I don't believe in that. It's easy to save money on the privatizations of prisons, but you're warehousing prisoners, and you're not going to get much chance of rehabilitation. You're not going to get much chance of encouraging people to improve their conduct and seek early release, and therefore your costs are going to stay high. Third, the federal government has told Rhode Island, we'll solve your highway problem, as they've told all the states, solve your highway problem in part by building a toll road. Now somebody tell me where I can build a toll road in Rhode Island.
All right, well, those are the 3. Does anyone else agree?
Well, I think another way of talking about efficiency, and certainly in state government, is, and I engaged in this effort in Connecticut about 15 years ago, and we need to do it again, is to take a hard look at the organization of government and try to institute good business practices in government and good procedures. Very often government is done by oral history, and that there aren't good ways of how we institute buying procedures or other kinds of things. Sometimes the framework is set by statute, but there are a lot of ways that we can fill in, and that is something that's on our plate in Connecticut, and as soon as we get through this budget process, one of our next steps is to take a look at how we're organized, how we deliver our systems, whether you have single entry systems for people coming on for social services and that kind of thing. There are a bunch of ways you can do it, and you can save the taxpayers a lot of money at the same time improving the efficiency and quality of services.
I'd say another general point, Marvin. I think we should focus more on outcomes rather than inputs. Traditionally, in state budgeting, the tendency was to say, how much are we going to spend on this particular account in state government this year, rather than by looking to the bottom line and saying, instead of how much money are we spending on street cleaning, how clean are our streets? Instead of how much money are we spending on education, how much are our kids learning? It's a general point, but it drives a lot if you keep your eye on that ball.
I think that the other thing that we can do is that we have an opportunity, I think for the first time in probably a decade, to really examine the way we deliver services. You have to sort of look for the silver lining, and I'm not sure there's much of one in this budget situation that we're all going through. But one thing we are going to be able to do is to restructure the way government delivers services, and that is the best possible opportunity to look for ways to create efficiencies. We're going to be creating a commission to do that. We're also going to be looking at ways internally that we can restructure different departments of government to try to improve on the efficiency. But in tough budget times, it forces people to look at issues like efficiency.
We have the next question coming in on the phone, please. Hello, you've got time to ask a question now.
Falling asleep.
Okay, sorry. Let's move right here from the floor. We can pick up another question.
Governor McKernan, it seems now that as we're talking about our economic crises here in the Northeast, we're ignoring the factors of natural resources. Maine forest practices allow up to 250-acre clear cuts, among other questionable practices. And I ask you, why are we allowing this to go on in the name of economic progress?
Well, I don't think that we are allowing it to go on in the name of economic progress. We have never regulated to any extent the way timber was cut in our state. In fact, it was during our administration that we passed the first ever Forest Practices Act. We had hearings throughout the state of Maine after it was passed to develop the regulations. We now put serious limitations on the way our woods are going to be harvested, and we believe that we're striking the right balance between making sure that we perpetuate an important resource, but also understand the economic value that is so important for the vast majority of the land area of our state to make multiple use of our forests. We're not going to squander that resource. We're not going to allow companies to cut without replanting, and we're going to limit clear cutting to certain areas. But I think that it's a balance that has really struck what needs to be struck for a balance between making sure we protect the resource and also making some use of it that creates significant jobs in many parts of our state.
Well, we here in television will try another resource, which is the telephone. We'll see if we had a question now. Please?
Yes, I have a question.
Good.
First of all, why do we have lobbyists and special interest groups? We should have a 10% federal tax and a 6 or 9% state tax, and we'll alleviate all these things. All the things that you're talking about right now would be alleviated. You know, they laugh and they joke about this, but it's very important. You know, a 19% against a 37% tax rate would be a lot less at 19, and the average person could pay this. But we're eliminating all the people in the top bracket who don't pay any taxes. If everybody paid at 10%, we would not have a deficit in this country.
Would you like to take a crack at that?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question, if I understand it correctly, and I'm not sure I do, but it's an interesting question because it's a question that's been raised in Connecticut. Part of our budget package, as I indicated earlier, includes an income tax, which we have said would be at a flat 6% on adjusted gross income with two exclusions. It's exclusion of up to $12,500 for a person filing individually and up to $25,000 for people filing jointly. And the question has arisen whether or not that's progressive. We're coming off a heavy emphasis on a sales tax, which everyone has agreed is not progressive at all because of the percentages that upper income people pay. And when you have a flat rate, such as this gentleman indicates, it's flat 10%, then you get everybody enraged because some people are paying more than others in terms of an overall percentage of their income. So while I don't sure I understand the connection between lobbyists and the taxes, although maybe he thinks that lobbyists, because they get things through, then therefore cost the government money. But in terms of the flat 10% thing, I think it raises this issue about progressivity. And in Connecticut, we think it's very progressive the way we have structured it, but there are others that don't.
Anyone else like to chip in on that?
Well, it's not one that any of us particularly want to chip in on, I think. let me just say, I've looked at this when I was in Congress, and he's right. I mean, everybody loves to pay a 10% tax. The problem is, in order to fund government, even at 25% less than government now costs at the federal government, would be about a 22% across the board, and that would be more than the vast majority of low-income people are now paying. Therefore, it's not fair.
That's right. Which is why we have the exclusion.
10% would be great, but it isn't going to fund government. And so that's why it's never, I mean, everybody thinks it's a great idea, but it never passes.
We'll take another question from the phones now. Please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes.
Not quite. You got another 6 minutes, but go ahead.
My name is Todd Westgate. I'm calling from Wareham, Massachusetts, and my question is directed towards all the governors. You were speaking of prisons earlier, and it made me think, can the workforce that's currently available in our prisons be utilized for basic non-technical services that the state now provides, such as highway cleanup, trash collection, maintenance, or does that make too much sense?
That makes good sense.
Governor Snelling, what do you think? Oh, sorry. Governor Wells.
The answer is absolutely the workforce can be used for that. In Massachusetts, we have a lot of that going on already, but there's no reason why the prisoners shouldn't be out there working on subjects like highway maintenance. I was at a luncheon in the State House a couple of weeks ago, and I was being very courteously served my chicken salad roll by 3 gentlemen who it turned out were inmates at one of our correctional institutions. There's a lot of things that those people can do, and I think it makes a lot more sense than having them sitting around watching television 10 hours a day.
Good. How was the chicken salad?
It was okay.
It was okay. We'll take another
lobster.
We'll take another call from the phones, please. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, my name's Kim White from Providence, Rhode Island, and I have a question for Governor Sondland. I'd like to know, if we're in such dire straits due to our taxes, how come we don't tax the boats that people have? Everyone in Rhode Island who has money has a big luxury boat on the bay, polluting the bay, and they don't pay any extra tax to have that. And I'd like to know, if we need the money so badly, why don't we put the burden on the people who can afford it? And also,
there was a good, straightforward question, Governor.
The answer is that there has been a tax proposed on boats several times. It's always been defeated. Maybe it'll come up again, and you might get a different result. The second factor is, as you may know, one of the largest industries in Rhode Island is boat building. We've got a whole bunch of boat companies, and it's always been thought that to tax the product of one of the state's most significant manufacturing industries was sort of biting the hand that fed you.
Governor, thank you. It's time for another break, and we'll be back right after these messages.
For fiscal 1991, these are approximate deficits for the New England states.
Blue Planet, now in the Muga Omni Theater, presents spectacular views of our planet from space. Now at the Museum of Science.
Why Jordan Marsh? Because it's the Jordan Marsh one-day sale. Get incredible savings one day, Wednesday only. Why Jordan Marsh? It's 25 to 50% off an enormous selection of merchandise for men, women, and children. Plus sensational savings of 25 to 50% off items for the home. Great savings on every floor of every store. But hurry, it's one day, Wednesday only, at all Jordan Marsh stores. The Jordan Marsh one-day sale. That's why Jordan Marsh.
It's happening. Some people are climbing out of their imports and getting into the 1991 Buick Regal sedan. Why? One simple, overwhelming consideration. Quality. Buick quality. It's something you might want to get into yourself. Regal from Buick.
Your post office delivery truck is also a pickup truck because Express Mail has pickup service. Call us and we'll pick up as many packages as you have, all for one low price of $4.50. You're guaranteed next morning delivery with Express Mail service at our low cost of just $9.95. So call 1-800-333-8777 and we'll be over to pick up your overnight packages for you.
We're your postal service. We deliver for you.
Uncle Ben's gives you so many delicious ways to enjoy healthy eating because these Uncle Ben's rices are low in fat, loaded with complex carbohydrates. And Uncle Ben's locks in more natural vitamins than ordinary rice. That's why it's the only rice that lights up every meal at the U.S. Olympic Training Center. Let Uncle Ben's make a healthy difference in your life.
We are back with this Governor's Forum, brought to you live from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, and we're taking questions now from the floor and from you at home as you call in. Question, please.
Good evening. My name is Leonard Adler, and I'm one of the co-student body presidents here at the Kennedy School. So on behalf of the students here, I just want to say thank you to the governors and for all the people, the networks that put this on, because we're really appreciative that this has come to the Kennedy School. As to my question, so far in the past hour in some of the questions, we've heard a lot of discussions of common problems, the deficit, declines in industry. But what I really haven't heard yet are discussions of common solutions, how between the four governors here and the one connected in Vermont, how you all can work together to try to address some of these common problems. I'm wondering what you can tell us here and for the citizens at home, how this meeting tonight isn't the end of something, but the beginning of a unified way to tackle some of the tough problems we face here in New England.
It's a good question. Why don't we start with Governor Snelling?
Well, I think that the New England Governors Conference, which of course is very old and has a very long history of productive relationships between the governors, is the avenue to which the gentleman refers. We do get together very often. For example, we have gathered twice now to talk with William Seidman of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation and with the Federal Reserve governors about credit, something we haven't talked about very much tonight, but that's certainly an important area where we agree as governors that we have to do what we can working with the federal government and the banking policies to make sure that there's credit available to stimulate our small businesses and our startups. And that's the kind of thing we have been doing, and I'm sure we're going to continue to do, particularly in these difficult times.
Governor Sondland, any other ideas?
Let me give you a specific. I think each of the New England states have a serious problem with workers' compensation.